Last week, despite the protests, the British High Court greenlit Julian Assange's extradition to face espionage charges in the US.
There's only one decision! No extradition!
So Julian has 2 weeks to appeal this decision, and we're going to keep fighting.
His decade-long legal fight now all but lost.
How can they accept an extradition to the country that plotted to kill Julian?
His supporters maintain Assange is not a spy, but a decorated journalist to be commended for revealing shocking war crimes perpetrated by US forces in Iraq.
Light them all up. Come on, fire!
This goes to the fundamentals of press freedom and of democracy.
They've also argued that 10 years of arbitrary detention has broken him.
He's being crushed, basically.
How can you discuss whether this man can be extradited if you can't even attend his own court hearing over video link?
To date, their advocacy has fallen on deaf ears. But over recent years, an unlikely alliance of Aussie politicians, Greens, moderate independents, Conservative Nationals, One Nation, all the way to Labor's opposition leader, have all taken up Assange's cause.
I'm a big fan of Trump, I'm a big fan of Bojo, but I'm a bigger fan of free speech and press freedom.
Frankly, he's a ratbag, but he's our ratbag.
Today, Deputy PM Barnaby Joyce reiterating his support for Assange in an op-ed stating, Assange did not steal any US secret files. US citizen Chelsea Manning did. Assange did publish them. In Australia, he received a Walkley Award in journalism for it. Assange was not in the US when the event occurred. Going further, Joyce asked, why is he to be extradited to the US? If he insulted the Quran, would he be extradited to Saudi Arabia? It's fuelled hope that diplomatic pressure might succeed where legal challenges have failed. But like his predecessors, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has so far stayed silent.
What is the Australian government doing? What is Scott Morrison doing to safeguard the interests of an Australian journalist in jail overseas?
Jennifer Robinson is Julian Assange's long-serving lawyer. Jennifer, Barnaby's been saying this stuff for a long time now, but he's now Deputy PM. Will that make any difference?
It is significant to have the Deputy Prime Minister of our country coming out in support and saying that Julian Assange should not be extradited to the United States. And I think it will make a difference. We know there are members of the government who have been supportive of our calls to have this case closed down in the United States. And I hope now that the Deputy Prime Minister has come out, that we'll see more Liberals and Nationals come out with public support for this position.
You know, this issue has finally, the Assange issue, has united so many people across the political spectrum. But why do you think the government itself is not willing to do more to protect an Australian citizen? Is it because of a love affair with the US and a desire to not cross them?
Look, we are the US's biggest ally. I think the government is also fundamentally underestimating the support across Australian society to end this case and to bring Julian home. I talk to Australians all around the country saying to me, what's taking so long? Why is our government not doing enough? And if we can bring home, for example, the Australian journalist Peter Greste from Egypt, then we can do this to Julian Assange.
Jennifer, I know this is not something you want to contemplate, but could it be that the quickest path to freedom for Julian Assange is to go to the United States and go through a judicial process to then pave the way for some kind of negotiation that does see him brought home?
Absolutely not. The quickest way to end this is for Scott Morrison to pick up the phone and call President Biden and put this to an end. This is a political prosecution. This is one that has gone on for far too long. And it's time that this was brought to an end. Scott Morrison needs to pick up that phone.
It was when Joe Biden was the Vice President that Chelsea Manning's sentence was commuted by or under the Obama presidency. Is that not a precedent that could give you a pathway to see him freed?
Well, if President Biden was truly committed to democracy and free speech, he would have closed down this prosecution already. We know it's a political prosecution. It was started by the Trump administration.
But hold on, Jen. I mean, you know these politicians are going to want to save face somehow. So I'm just asking you to entertain that idea. Is that not plausible?
Hamish, the medical evidence we have is that if Julian is extradited to the United States, he would commit suicide. This is not a safe situation for him. His health is in a terrible state. This prosecution should never have happened in the first place. It breaches the First Amendment. It is a dangerous precedent for all American journalists. As a result, the US has lost its moral authority around the world to speak about freedom of speech, and it's time that it was brought to an end. He shouldn't have to be sent and put in a high-security prison in the United States in order for this to be resolved, and the Australian government can be doing more.
How often do you speak to him, Jennifer?
We are in regular contact. Obviously, being in Australia with the border closures, I haven't been able to see him myself, but I'm in regular contact with his fiancée and our legal team, the rest of the legal team in London. And it's a dire situation. He's just had a stroke in prison. This is the situation we face. And it's time for the Australian government to do something about it.
Thanks so much for your time, Jennifer.
Thank you.